Happy New Year and welcome to Unedited, our fortnightly podcast where we explore the opportunities and challenges the retail industry is facing. Now it's time for a quick update from us. So my fantastic co-host Diana Bang is actually off to bring her little boy into the world, so is sadly leaving the podcast for now. So you'll be stuck with just me, but you'll continue to hear me interview guests from the industry where we will be discussing topics that will shed light on how retailers can create a brighter future. So as it's January, the month where people traditionally sign up to the gym and start their New Year's resolutions, today we will be delving into the topic of activewear and that market. So let's be honest, 2020 was a pretty crap year for retail, unless you were in the activewear category. So from lockdown home workout booms in 2020 to us all wearing a uniform of athleisure and loungewear, this category has really been propelled to new heights in the past 12 months. It was already a successful category and it has appeared to be pandemic proof, accounting for a record of 40% of all online sales last year, according to NPD. And we've seen this continue into 2021. So the number of January sellouts so far this year has exceeded that of last year by 15%. And another interesting fact for you, 2020's second most popular when search on Google was when will gyms reopen? So on today's podcast, we have Jemma Cassidy, CPO at Sweaty Betty. Happy New Year, Jemma, and welcome to Unedited. We're thrilled to have you as our first guest of 2021. How are things at your end?
Oh gosh, I hope I don't disappoint. Happy New Year. It's great to be here. Things are good. Yeah, I mean, they're as good as 2021 can be, I suppose.
Yeah, not a huge improvement on 2020.
No, some might argue that a bit of a disimprovement. Yeah. 2021, that's how I feel.
Absolutely. And I can't help but ask, but do you have any New Year's resolutions?
Oh, you know what? I usually do. Actually, New Year's is always I love it actually in January. I spend time reflecting in the year, what I did well, what I didn't, what I'd like to change. And no, haven't done a single thing. Get through 2021 alive. That's my New Year's resolution. Switch off the news. Try as much as I can not listen to, the daily terrors that we're all being bombarded with. But otherwise, no, not really. I think we all need to give ourselves a bit of a break.
Totally. I don't think we can be too hard on ourselves and give ourselves too many rules to live by, as we already have too many to follow and worry about.
Agree.
It would be great to kind of kick off and hear more about your career, and love to hear about your journey in becoming CPO at Sweaty Betty and how that came about.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Irish, as you can probably tell. So I was born and grew up in Dublin, went to school and college there. And then I always wanted to work in fashion of some sort, but I couldn't draw to save my life. So I didn't really understand what else I could do. There wasn't that much really in Ireland that was an example. We didn't have the high street head offices that we're, so used to in London. So I didn't really know what function I could do. So I did journalism in college, again, not overly invested in it. Just, you kind of had to do something when you left school. But I was working part-time at the time in Oasis. And I was so intrigued with everything that went on, from area managers to visual display artists to head office roles. And that's when I kind of started realizing, oh, wait, there's other roles apart from just design.
Yeah.
So I applied for a role there as full-time, permanent, I guess, to leave college, didn't tell my family, to be a field visual merchandiser. And so I applied for it because every time I used to get the VM team coming in, the head office team, I used to always assist them. And I just thought they were the glamour things in the world. And I remember thinking I wanted to do that. So I went and I applied for the role and I got it. And I actually left college and started working, and I didn't tell anyone. And I remember the dean of my college calling my mum to see how I was doing, because he thought I was obviously gravely ill because I hadn't been in for so long. And that's actually essentially how my family found out that I was working full time. So from that, I stayed with those for a while. And then I think at that time it was Mosaic, I believe, that bought them over, if my memory serves me right. And they made a lot of the team redundant. But then I moved on to Topshop, and I moved into a head office role of BVA, a brand visual assistant, which I loved. I really loved it. I was there for about 4.5 years. And I remember it was at the time when Jane Shepherd was at the helm, and it just felt so innovative and so inviting of an environment. And everyone who wanted to be there was so ambitious and they just loved their jobs. It was just a really happy place to work, and I made some incredible friends there. And then I kind of really realized that I wanted to be more closer to the product. I started to understand then the roles that were around me, and that was really where my heart lay. So I took a job then in an Irish retailer called Jemmas Stores. I guess kind of like Marks and Spencer's. It's quite a massive chain, and they're in Spain, but in the UK and in Ireland, and very similar to Marks in that they have from homewares to clothing to grocery, etc. So I started work with them, and I started entry level, went in as a BAA, but because I had the background, although I didn't have a buying background, I had a background in retail, but I quickly kind of went through those early, lower entry level roles quite quickly. And also working for Dunn's, no offense to anyone listening from Dunn's, but it is known as quite a tricky place to work. So, it was training a la Navy SEALs-esque. So, very, very hard place to work. But, it stands to you. It's quite an interesting place to actually. Yeah, it does be good chat. I'd imagine I'd have the same conversation with someone who went to a military high school. Yeah. We could talk about how it benefited us both. So yeah, I really loved it. I knew then that's what I wanted. Like straight away, I loved it. I loved the pace. I loved being involved in product from the start to finish. I loved what that meant. I loved the hustle of it. And then it just really went from there. Then I moved on to a Scandinavian company called Bestseller, who own like Selected Homme, Selected Femme, Vera Moda, Jack and Jones. They also have a majority share in ASOS, big company. So I worked for them in Denmark, in Branda. And I realized actually I'd taken a wrong step. Although it was quite a promotion, I realized that actually I'd moved away from the product, and again, drilled home, that's what I want to do. Then I started getting the calls from a few people looking to headhunt. I started speaking to the Urban Outfitters group, who own Free People, Urban Outfitters, Anthropology, Terrain, which is in the UK, yes. And we started having conversations. I flew to Philadelphia a couple of times, and I was like, oh, maybe. I never really thought about moving to the States, but sure. And anyway, got the role, moved there, was with them for quite a few years in Free People, and yet really drove that business internationally and really expanded it. And it was such an exciting time. And then I moved to the LVMH group for DKNY, which was, I think, probably, current role excluded, was probably my career highlight in the sense that it was the most aligned group of people I'd ever worked with. It was a pretty special team. The guys at LVMH did an incredible job putting that executive team together. And it was an amazing environment, new creative directors, new direction, all so exciting. And then they were actually bought out. And then I started looking at DKNY and Donna Karan. Then I went from there to DVF, and I was there when Sweaty Betty started calling. It was through the old CEO of Donna Karan, actually. She was like, there's a role, you should speak to them. And I was like, okay, sure, let's have a chat. Yeah, and then here I am.
Wow. I mean, some phenomenal brands, and also not just the phenomenal brands, but at such exciting points in those brands' lives as well that you've worked for them. So what an incredible CV and experience. And I guess for our listeners as well, obviously your CPO, what does that mean? Do you mind kind of explaining what that role encompasses and what your day-to-day looks like at Sweaty Betty?
Of course. So basically it stands for Chief Product Officer. So I suppose ultimately in a snapshot sentence, I'm responsible for the visual or for the product proposition of the company. So the teams that fall under my remit are, so I have my garment tech team, raw materials, fabric falls under that, print, color, design, buying, and then also production, product development. And then I also look after the global wholesale team. So it's essentially anything that touches product. Wholesale is almost a bit of an anomaly with my role. It's just that I had that experience in Free People, so I understand them. So they actually report to me. But the rest of the teams are quite, quote, normal for CPO. So it runs the gamut from the very start of a season that we as a brand immediately start thinking of a season, all the way through the product being on the shop floor. So anything that touches the actual product along the way, that's my job.
Amazing. And obviously, Sweaty Betty saw a gap in the activewear market 20 years ago, that there were fundamental things that were missing at the time and that wasn't available in the market. How have you seen that change throughout the years?
Yeah, it's, Tamara was, well ahead of her time. I mean, it was 22 years ago that, she naturally led that active lifestyle and really found that she couldn't find what she needed or wanted to, carry out, be it a sport or just even keeping fit. So she very cleverly opened her first store and kind of went from there. And it was stocking brands who at the time had a, Shrink It and Pink It. Nike wasn't focusing on women or Adidas or any of them really. So they would just look at men's bestsellers, make them smaller, make it a pink at the end. And that worked for a very, short amount, actually, I suppose a long amount of time. If you look at, I suppose, how quickly in the last few years, niche brands have expanded. But yeah, I think what's changed is that people's lifestyles have changed rather than what they want just necessarily from clothing. I think, if you think years ago, I'm not sure of your age and I'm not giving mine away, but if I think when I was young, there wasn't my mom and aunts and whatever, they all weren't going to the gym. They weren't in the gym 3 or 4 times a week or even 2 times a week. They went for some walks and they did, the odd quote, keep fit class. But, there was no, real focus on that. There just wasn't there. And I don't know whether it was an intimidation or they just weren't serviced, be it from gyms to activewear, whatever it was. But really, if you look at it now, I mean, I don't really know anyone who doesn't focus on their health and well-being from an exercise standpoint. Now it's way more mainstream. So I think that's really what's changed. I think people have become much more health conscious. And, previously, again, going back to my mum's and my aunt's age, it was very much weight conscious. It was Weight Watchers or Slimming World or all about, American commercials of like diet pills. And it was very much that focus. So I think that shift, which is so healthy, has moved into wellness, looking after yourself, get stronger, be healthier, look after your health, be here longer, look after your agility. And I think that's massively shifted in the last, I can say definitely 20 years and even massively revved up even more so the last 10.
Totally. I mean, even just the messaging that you see from brands in January and at this time of year, you don't have any of that, get yourself ready for your summer body or be skinny or any kind of weight inspired messaging. It's all about kind of detox, self-care.
Thank the Lord.
Thank the Lord. I know the pressure was too great.
Seriously.
But I think you're right. Like, I've never heard that term that you mentioned, like the pink it thing, obviously just taking bestsellers from a men's range and, just adding maybe a bright pink and a turquoise color and expect that the...
Extremely patronizing, isn't it? It's mental when you think of it.
It's mental. It's actually hysterical because I feel like there are still some sports out there that almost do that, where there's not a huge female backing. Like I always embarrassed to admit this, but I'm a pretty keen golfer. And if you ever try and look at like women's golf clothes, they are just the most ghastly selection of things that are on the market. But it's exactly that. Like the color palette hasn't changed in 15, 20 years. There's still a bright pink option and a bright blue. And that's really kind of it.
I know. It's crazy, isn't it?
It is. It's mad. And I guess what's also exciting is it's defining that kind of premium and aspirational brand that Sweaty Betty has done so well. And now kind of where there's unprecedented competition in that space, how do you guys differentiate yourselves from the others that are in the market?
I think what we have, and I'm with the company just over a year, so say a year and a half. So I can say this almost from an insider and an outsider.
Yeah.
So sometimes I think when you get into the company, you can drink the Kool-Aid, you're like, we're amazing because of ABC. But from the outside, everyone's like, that's not at all what you are. But I can say this actually from the outside and also the inside, that we really do have that special sauce. I think what we do as a company, which I was so impressed with at the, from the exterior before I started, was the customer service level. I mean, we fundamentally put the customer first in our business. And I can say this coming from, some massive companies, various CEOs, that's not always the case. I would say the vast majority, actually the CEO is first. What makes him or her happy? What does he or her want? And that's what we do. And then the customer is next. But actually that doesn't come into play with Sweaty Betty. It's what can we do to help our customer? What does she need? How do we put her first? What might she want in the morning? What might she want if she's going for brunch after class? And everything we do is really around her. So it's not contrived. It's not this pretend, we're all about our customer, but we actually aren't, which honestly, it's shocking the amount of companies that actually think that way.
Yeah.
We truly do. And if you go into any of the Sweaty Betty stores, like before I started, I went in and had a look in the few and to meet some of the staff, and they're so passionate. They fully believe in the brand. Their customer service level is so attentive. It's almost like going into a Vuitton store. You're buying a legging for £85. You're not buying a £2,000 bag, but the customer service level is still there. So I think that definitely sets us apart. And what that's done over the past 22 years is really built a sense of community. The community are loyal to us, which is something that we absolutely don't take for granted. I mean, it's so special. So I think that's a big part of it. And I also think that a lot of the sports brands, and they're phenomenal. I mean, their turnover, their revenues are insane, but they're, they are a little intimidating. They are quite preachy. It's very much, heavy imagery and, fierce imagery and very dark and, strong and, and weighted. And whereas we're actually, the people who work in the company are the people who shop Sweaty Betty. We are all, we take that preachy out of this, and we're all in this together. If you run a marathon, if you're a triathlete, amazing. But also if you just go every Saturday and you just do a happy yoga, that's also amazing. And you have a part in Sweaty Betty. And I think we don't preach about, you have to be overly fit and you have to be X size and you have to be that to be a part of our gang. We don't have that. Our tribe is much more inclusive. We want, women from all walks of life, be a super successful CEO, whatever that looks like, to, a super successful mom. She's at home with her 3 kids, raising 3 amazing kids, looking after her home, and also keeping fit on the side. So we don't want to just go after one person. We really believe in an inclusive community. And I don't think many in this space really does. I think they're brilliant. And I mean, we look to them, for inspiration and innovation, and we're so impressed with what they can manage to do. But without naming names, they are very, very focused on the athlete, and that's their aim. We're actually just focused on women who really want to feel better and look after themselves.
It's almost like that historical, we know that having, a professional athlete has always been a successful initiative, and that's how we're going to front our campaigns. And as you said, it can be a bit intimidating and not inclusive, and not everyone can relate to that, whether it's Wimbledon titles or, Olympic golds.
Totally.
So no, absolutely. It makes total sense that that's why the customer is so loyal and invested in the brand. So, I mean, obviously activewear as a segment, it's in the past 7 years, it's grown to be worth over 270 billion. But 2020 propelled it to new heights, which is so exciting, especially for you guys. But what activewear products do you see that consumer really caring the most about? And from a Sweaty Betty point of view, what did you guys really invest in 2020? And what would you say your hero products are?
I think the customer, I think, most activewear businesses are built off this. The fundamental of that wardrobe is a legging. That's, you can shove on your husband or boyfriend's t-shirt, or you can shove on your girlfriend's sweater to wear over your leggings. But fundamentally, you need your leggings to perform for you.
Yeah.
So I think that, we are incredibly proud of the leggings that, the assortment that we have. When I look at the end uses, first of all, and also, again, going back to the customer, like, what does she want? Means really, what do I want? I mean, me as in, not me personally, as in the people in Sweaty Betty, our employees, they are our customer. Yeah. So, we ask ourselves first and foremost, what's important to us? So we want to make sure that they're durable. Like, we're not paying £85 for a legging and then have to buy another one in 8 weeks' time. Or, we have to buy 7 a year because they don't last. So durability is incredibly important to us. And there's a lot of the feedback we get, which we're really proud of, is the quality of what we put out. It truly is top notch. And, the investment, I think we all know £85 isn't a walk in the park for, a lot of people, but it's an investment in there, which also then ties back to, it's an angle of sustainability in that, you're not contributing to constant waste of just buying crappy leggings every 6 weeks. So that's super important to us. It's the durability and quality. And then also, do they stay up? I think we've all had those leggings that, you're in the gym and you're, really attractively reefing your trousers up halfway over your boobs, trying to get them to stay on, and then you run for another 5 seconds and you're pulling them again. And that is, there's so many leggings on offer. It's fascinating for me that is pretty much the norm, which is crazy. So we made sure that isn't the norm for us. So a lot of ours have like the likes of internal waistbands to make sure that isn't something that you ever have to worry about. You can concentrate on the class at hand, the walk at hand, or, your run, whatever it is you want to do, that you're not worrying about if your leggings are going to stay up. And also then the opacity, again, I'm always shocked when especially in the New York, I'm a marketer's dream. I buy into every fad there is. And I used to go to Soul Cycle all the time at a certain time. And I'd be behind people on bikes. I'd be like, dear Jesus. They'd literally be entirely see-through leggings, but I guess they didn't know because, you're not looking at your ass and you're working out. And I couldn't get over it. And it just seems to be the norm. And I would buy them myself. And I remember one time cycling with my husband, I was in front of him and he was like, you do know that your leggings are entirely see-through? I was like, what? No, I didn't know this. Mortifying. it's not my first time cycling with those leggings either. So God knows who else knows I cycle around in see-through leggings. So I think that's something else that we're really passionate about. Like we do the down dog test. Every time we get them in, our poor suffering fit models are like, would you mind getting into the down dog position? So we can make sure that there's nothing there, that you're not going to have our customers embarrassed or, feeling conscious. So it goes back to just constantly thinking of the customer. And again, that's us. What do we want from a legging? I think that's something that we do really well. And I think, our hero products, again, leggings. Our power legging is, we just can't keep them in stock. There's a constant wait list, and, we've taken big bets on leggings. We're like, okay, let's hold hands to this. Is a big risk, but we're going to buy X amount. Oh God, please, it can work. And then we're like, oh Jesus, we're sold out again. And we're like, oh my God, I thought we way overbought those. So we just can't seem to keep them in. We literally cannot keep them in stock, which is, we're so grateful for.
Yeah.
But again, it's not a hype thing. It's not a hype thing though. It's not a marketing thing. They genuinely are amazing. They're good. They're good price points for the length that you're going to have them in your wardrobe. They perform. They're amazing. They're really sweat wicking. They're really breathable. They're 90% squat proof. Which means there is, you're not seeing your ass essentially. Yeah. And they've got an internal draw cord, which makes sure that they don't fall down. So we put a lot of thought into everything that we put out.
Totally. And you wouldn't sell as many power leggings as you guys do if people didn't want to come back and, repeat purchase that product. I think that internal waistband thing is also a really interesting point. I read a stat the other day that, a female goes through 31 different dress size changes throughout her life, and as you said, if you're paying £85 or dollars for a legging, you want it to fit, depending on whether you kind of gain or lose a few pounds, so.
That's fascinating. I didn't know 31.
Yeah, I know. I was absolutely shocked, but also could.
I'd say add another 3 in there after COVID. We're probably at 34.
Exactly. So obviously reading the news and seeing your guys' results from 2020, I know you guys reported making a profit with triple-digit digital growth and total revenues increasing around 60%. The fact that that's incredible results, considering you guys had over, 70 brick and mortar stores having to close at various points throughout the year through lockdown. So what do you think your guys' strengths were heading into the pandemic, and also any insight on how you guys had to adapt as well as other retailers? Yeah,
look, listen, thank God this is a podcast, because if you saw me, you'd know this hasn't been easy. It's been quite a year. None of us are ready for this. Like, we can say we came into this so prepared because of X, Y, and Z. Like, none of us saw this coming. No. But I think what we did a few things really well. I think, very early on in the game, we have really strong relationships with our incredible partners around the globe. Our suppliers are been with us for many years, and even our new suppliers they're a fantastic bunch. And they, a lot of them are in Asia by the very nature of manufacturing. And they started giving us little updates quite early, being like, hey, there's a coronavirus, could be nothing, just something to watch out for. So very early, we were like, let's get a corona task force. I remember putting it together, being like, this is hideous. Maybe we're being ridiculous, but whatever. Let's just be cautious. And so we would meet once a week. We would look and see what was being delayed. Was factories reporting any closures?
Yeah.
So then what we started to do, we switched straight away. We started flying our goods in instead of vesseling them in to get them in sooner, just in case. We started looking at our production schedule and thinking, what, let's just ship in, get them in, have them in the warehouse. Let's just be prepared rather than, wait. Just in case. We still can't claim to be genius. We didn't know. We were just preparing. And then with a lot of suppliers in Italy, our Italian fleece, which is a real hero of ours, comes from Italy. Our Italian partners then started speaking to us about, obviously, they'd started seeing it.
Yeah.
So we had that prep work done to begin with before the very, very start. And also we came out of 2019 actually incredibly healthy. So we made a few big bets going into 2020. So we'd already kind of increased our stock holding anyway.
Yeah.
So that also helped. And we also, we have a really amazing team, and it goes from the exec right down to all of the assistants. People, we work very well together. We really band quite well together, which we've really learned in the last year in any kind of crisis. So, come March, when I remember being in the UK and people were still like, coronavirus, whatever, and I was part of that. I was like, God, I remember my mum came to visit me and she brought me a mask. I was like, you've lost your mind. What am I doing with that? And she was like, you should wear it. I'm like, wear it? I was like, where did I wear it? That's ridiculous. And I remember she left and went back to Dublin, and she left it on the house that I was renting in London. I was like, well, she's absolutely insane. She wants me to bring these in. She actually left them for my staff, wants me to bring them in and hand them out. So I was like, oh my God, they'd absolutely commit me. And I remember being that blasé about it. And I flew back to New York on I think it was March 10th-ish. And I remember getting to the airport and being like, oh my God, this is way bigger than any of us realized. And I just, being out of the bubble of being in the UK, we were all pretty safe. We didn't really have to worry about anything. And then I landed back in New York, and it was, as I'm sure so many of your listeners know, New York is a city that never sleeps, right? And yet it was so weirdly quiet, like quieter than after, a lot of attacks the city had. And I was like, what is happening? Yeah. And that's when we realized, oh shit, this is a big deal. So we obviously closed all of our stores March 17th, I believe it was. Mm-hmm. And, we were really, it was a tragic moment in the business. We were like, shit, if we could close all our stores and then suddenly the warehouse is going to have to close because, that's what the government will make us do. That means we won't have a business. And if we can't do that, if that lasts for a year, we'll be cease trading as a company. And it was a really scary time, and started thinking about, God, we're going to have to let all these people go who don't deserve it. They've come out of 2019 and as an incredible business with incredible staff. And suddenly we're thinking of that. And, and literally within a matter of a week, we were like, oh, wait, the sales are good. Wait, the sales are good this week. Oh my God, the sales are getting better. Yeah. What? And we were like, shit, like, oh my God, we had a hiring freeze, and we had all of these things. We were like, bring everyone back from furlough, bring everyone back, take the freeze off. And so I think honestly, so many things contributed to our success, but so much of it was the staff. This is especially when I look at a product team, right? They are a team that are so dependent on each other. And I mean that by, buying needs to be with garment tech because they have to be in fits, and design needs to be sitting beside raw materials so they can pick the fabrics and they can hand feel them, and all of these things that go with the job. And they're used to traveling, and they travel internationally, and they go on inspiration trips, and they look for inspiration, and that's their personality type in their job. And then suddenly they're sitting at home Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, staring at a laptop with no interaction. So, it hasn't been easy for any of them, but they have just, talk about hitting the ground running. They did everything within their remit possible to keep the business going, and, going out of what their norm was. Like this is known for nobody. And, suddenly we were a retail company, and overnight we were an e-com company. Yeah. And, prior to that, if you were going to pivot a business that way, you would start to build the foundations, and you would start to really invest in those teams, and, invest in technology and maybe additional warehouses. We didn't have that opportunity. We literally were like, retail, today you're e-com. What? So to just pivot that quickly and have the teams get us there was remarkable. And also, our suppliers, we really value our suppliers. We really value our people. It's very important to us as a brand. So we had suppliers work incredibly closely with us on, increasing, initially actually cancelling stock, because that's what we thought we had to do. Yeah. And I remember calling myself and the VP of buying, calling every single one of our suppliers, like, we're so terribly sorry, but we have to cancel these orders, which is a horrendous thing to do to people. It's their income and their livelihood. And they were amazing partners to us and helped us come up with innovative ideas. And if we hold them and we hold the stock and we ship it next year, and just went out of their way. We had some suppliers, one supplier of ours in Turkey, we'll never forget it. He literally called us and was like, can I contribute money to help your staff? Like, we were like, wow, like, that's just incredible, unheard of. We didn't need it, thankfully, but to even know that we had those partners helped us survive. And then, overnight we called them all again. We're like, thank you so much for, cancelling your orders and moving your entire production schedule. But now actually, can we get them back, and can we get more? We were like, what? And so, but again, like, I'm sure they were so peeved with us, but they were like, oh my God, this is amazing. You're now going to help us survive. So it was, it's just a banding together. And again, from CEO right down to assistants was pretty remarkable. And so I think, I'm a long-winded answer, but I don't think there's any one thing that had us survive. I think it's an accumulation. And also, it can't not speak to our customers. Our customer loyalty, first of all, we always knew it was there, and that they were, such brand loyalists, which was amazing. Yeah. But they have just really helped us. They've got involved in our community. They've got involved in the classes that we put on to help them through lockdown. And, they've really returned that back by staying loyal to us and continuing to shop through lockdown, which has kept, a lot of people in work.
Well, exactly. And I mean, the fact that everyone's come together and it's been a whole team effort, and that's what's driven the success for you guys in the last year. And I guess, I mean, I'm absolutely staggered to hear that, how early you guys had a coronavirus task force. I mean, I haven't heard anybody be that prepared. So the fact that you did all of that work up front, I mean, must have also, made a huge impact into how you were able to react when the world felt like, headless chickens running around on March when everything kind of ground to a halt. So
I can't pretend it's my genius. I definitely wasn't my idea. I rolled at the idea, to be honest. I was like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. So I can't take credit for it. I think it might have been our CEO and our COO. I can't remember who had the idea actually, but God, yeah, thank God they did.
Absolute madness. So, I mean, I guess as well, at the start of lockdown in March, demand, as you've already spoken to, demand for that activewear soared, in the UK. And as you said, obviously you had to go back to your supply base and say, look, we actually want more orders. And obviously where so many factories had to close, we've really seen that reflected in the numbers in terms of the impact that had in terms of the number of new in products. So in December of this year, there was a 26% decrease in products online versus the year before. And that also we were seeing sellouts continue to rise. So how, from your opinion, what advice could you give to retailers on how they can capitalize on that rise in demand, but also effectively manage their stock holding and their supply chain to meet that?
It's a tricky one. I mean, we definitely have to sell out. It is happening. We're almost a victim of our own success a little. It's very hard. And I'm sure the retailers, if they're looking to get into athleisure wear or they're already in it, it's really hard to know the demand. Like, for example, I remember last June, I believe it was, I remember being in a trade call and everyone was like a bit peeved. Like, oh, we ran out of shorts. Like, how we ran out of shorts and we didn't buy enough. And we were like, guys, we're up 540% on shorts this month. We could never have guessed this.
Yeah.
Like if you had gone to a buy sign up, you're like, okay, I'm going to increase the stock holding by 1,000%, everyone, just so everyone knows. And everyone, okay? There's just no way. There's no way you do it. People be like, fire her, she's an idiot. So I think, it's hard to manage. I'll be honest, we don't have all the right answers. I think what we've done is, I think once businesses in general really get a hold on their never out of stock or the continuity line, because no matter what we think, we have all these ideas that, not just us, and I'm speaking more so my previous worlds, which are much more trend driven, ready to wear, runway. We have all these visions that people want all of this exciting stuff. And then even Donna Karen, like our runway shows are so beautiful, but we really just sold our black, like 1,000,001 of our black ponte pants. So it's like, that's what people want. So as long as you really protect your business from that standpoint, and you really make sure that you have your absolute best sellers, the rest is really nice to have and very important for the brand's proposition and for, acquiring new customers and all that excitement. But really, when you look down to, brass knuckles, your business is driven by your never out of stock.
Yeah.
So there's not that much risk in it, in the sense that so long as you have a design, let's just say the black powders, we love them. We know they're amazing. Our return rates are almost non-existent. We know they perform. We know they fit well. We know the fabrics are great. So we're not going to change them every season. We're not going to, add something new to them or remove the waistband or, put a zip on them. That's not going to change. So if we buy a significant amount of them to, in case of factory closures, the worst case scenario will trickle through. We won't sell them all in one day, but we have enough stock for the year. Is it ideal to sit in that much stock? No. But right now, in the situation we're finding ourselves in, it's more ideal to have stock than not.
Yeah.
So I think it's a balance. I mean, none of us have the answers. I think constant analyzation. I think, right now we're moving away from retail. Not to say that retail's going away, just with the store closures and the government rules, we're very much e-com focused. And I think it's a change in mindset. Previously as buyers or, planning teams, you would wait for a week selling and you'd be like, oh, how did it sell? We have a week selling. So you don't have to wait for a week. If you're selling something on e-com, you're going to know after 4 hours.
Yeah.
Like after you send that email, 4 hours later, what was the return? What was the hit rate like? How many have we sold? So we can react quicker. And I think people, a lot of us, me including, everyone who is so used to what is, a model that has worked for excellent years, we now have to get sharper. We really have to look to e-com and get the lessons there, which will help us a little bit. And also, the data is massively improved. If you look at what data was 10, 20 years ago, now we have so many tools that can tell us, speed of selling, best selling sizes, change your size curve, there's a lot. I think I don't have the answer. I think we'll need another year as an industry to really realize, the learnings from this and how we can protect our businesses.
Totally. I think there's two things that really like spoke to me, especially that getting that never out of stock product right, making sure you've got stock in the right place. It's actually mind blowing to me, especially with the range of customers that I get to work with at Edited, how a number of brands, they're never out of stock lines they've not actually looked at for years, and they don't bring in the level of business that they should do, and they've kind of been forgotten about and fallen by the wayside. And as you said, if you know that you've got your black power legging, everyone loves it, you can put the stock behind it, and you know that it's a safe investment.
And it's also looking at you, to your point, you said something really interesting, because I agree with you that people don't look at them. Like, they're like, oh, let's just say we have the black power that sells really well, leave it there, never look at it again.
Yeah.
And it's definitely something I'm not a fan of at all. Actually, as soon as I started in Sweaty Betty, we had a day, we pulled one of every single continuity ever as stock line. We're like, let's get a model, let's try every single one of it on. What works, what doesn't, what can we change? And that's drastic. Like, if you look at the power, we ever so slightly changed the pitch in the back, and it just looks better on, makes your bum look better. And it's just these tiny little changes that you instead of having one pocket on, or sometimes leggings don't have any pockets. We made sure now that every one of our leggings has a pocket.
Yeah.
And we looked at what the customer wants. We now, spoiler alert, we're about to drop the high waist power. And the super high waist is about to drop, because we were like, what? Black powers are killing it. Our customer wants high waist. Well, ta-da, make it in a best selling.
Totally.
So I think, it's a balance, but I think, I never understand ignoring never out of stock. I mean, it is literally what builds your business.
Totally. No, it really, really is. And how important as well is innovation, would you say, in activewear? I mean, on that topic of making sure that you're constantly looking at that product and it suits the customer's needs, how do you as a brand, ensure that innovation is front of mind when you're developing your product lines?
We break our business down into performance and lifestyle, meaning that performance styles have to perform, right? So that's where you think of our performance lines are basically what you're breaking a sweat in. So if you're going to the gym, you're going hiking, you're going running, you're going skiing, anything that we expect you to be able to break a sweat in, that's our performance department. And so in our performance department, innovation is key, because there's all well and good having a beautiful legging with an amazing print that, as I said, it's see-through or it falls down. So it's really key. It's really, really key. Innovation is top of mind. So we have a raw materials team. It's kind of where it starts. So they will work by themselves on developing, but also we're in line with many of the mills around the world on what's going on, what's happening now, what's interesting. Is there a new science coming through, like crystallization within the fabrics of performance fabrics, or what sweat wicking with sustainability can we go after? And so constantly pushing us think that way. And then we also have the designers, if they're looking at their products and they're like, I want to create a hiking jacket that can also be worn on a bike. So therefore they know the hood has to be a certain size, because you've got to wear it over a helmet if you're going to be on that bike for a certain time. So it just never really stops. It's kind of, I suppose, it's not even just a part of the business of the performance team. It's everything. It's from the very, very start when it comes to raw material develop and research, right the way through to what buying actually pick up from the line. Because if we don't have the innovation and we don't have the performance and the actual functionality of it, well, then we are just, I don't want to name a high street brand's name, but we're just one of them doing athleisure wear, whereas that's not what we are. That is like functionality and performance and sport and, allowing our customer the ability to work out in whatever way she wants. That is our brand. So we have to be innovative.
And I guess it comes back to what you were saying earlier as well about the fact that what do we want? What do, your colleagues that work at Sweaty Betty, like actually listening to what are the requirements for this product and making sure that the product can actually do what you need it to do versus just looking good. So in your opinion, what are the most kind of hyped and trending innovations that you can kind of see brands looking towards in 2021 and beyond, would you say?
Gosh, I mean, it's never ending really, which is kind of amazing. There's so many technical labs around the world now that are employed by big brands to work on innovation, as well as their in-house innovation teams. Even in the UK, there's Loughborough, which has an incredible wellness hub. They have there was everything and anything. I mean, there's Lulu has worked with them, Nike has worked with them, we've worked with them, and I mean, they are the ultimate experts. So there's people like that, and then there's also developing insane, crazy things. And then there's also ourselves as a company, as I said, developing with a raw materials.
Yeah.
So I think What's the most important innovation? I can't really say because I don't want anyone else picking up on it.
Fair enough.
but I would say I think a big one that is no secret to anybody is I think sustainability, be it ethanol or whatever kind of recycled materials that you can put into a performance product. It's really important right now. I mean, you're not going to wax lyrical about landfill from clothing companies, but we all know it's a problem. And also, performance wasn't necessarily always there for anyone because lycra is very, very tricky to get in a full sustainable industry. So I think that where we can do our piece, I think performance companies are really looking to, be it fully recycled sneaker or whatever that is. I mean, our super scrubs are made from recycled water bottles. Every legging that you buy, 17 recycled water bottles is used. So I think that's a big part of the innovation that performance companies are pushing towards. And what else is it? Is it, for bags right now, instead of using leather, pineapple skins are becoming, quite innovative. And there's a lot of testing going on with them. So I think regarding day to day, I think it's the sustainability. And regarding big picture innovation, I think really, I couldn't even begin to tap and tell you what it is. I think there's literally PhD students, PhD doctors and labs around the world working on this because it really is where it's going. I mean, people demand a lot from their product when it's performance. There's the Jemmas that, help you with muscle recovery at night for a certain athlete. There's suits that are now going to have this and that. So I think, waffle over, but it's never ending.
I think it's very exciting as well as, a category, segment, whatever you want to call it, how activewear has really embraced sustainability and kind of innovation. And hopefully that will inspire other categories and other areas of apparel and retail. So I wanted to talk about kind of engaging with the customer via social media or whether that's different other, marketing initiatives. How have you guys as a brand been able to evolve and remain relevant, would you say, with your customer whilst gyms have been closed? And what topics have you felt have been important to discuss and have really resonated with the customer?
In one way, it's probably helped us. God, I hate to use the word COVID's helped anyone, but in the sense that because our customer can't go to the gym and because they can't go to that class that they love or they're not in their big running group, they've actually looked to us, to form a bit of a community for this. So actually them not being there has actually engaged us more with them because we've always put on, we would do Insta Live or Insta Lives, we would do, Wellness Wednesdays, we had classes we offered, and we definitely had a customer that attended them all. But now those customers didn't have, immediately back in March onwards, they didn't have an option. There was no gym. So we've had a massive insurgence of our customers engaging with us even more on social media. And they're a pretty engaged bunch, to be honest. We have various groups on Facebook that we've seen them create. We have, quite a really high engagement on our social platforms. We put on classes for our customers. We do and that ranges from HIIT to Pilates to yoga, but also then meditation, and we've done some talks around a little bit more of mental health. I mean, really, really got involved in our customers' daily lives. And I think what it's done is what I said earlier about our community being so important to us. It's actually really just bonded it even more. And I think we have one Facebook group, and it's fascinating when you read, we get sent some messages from them about how being a member of that group really saved them. That, it was everything to them through lockdown. A lot of women lived on their own. They weren't going to work. They weren't going to the gym. And that became their source of community and support. So we've been lucky in that sense, that they've allowed us into their lives to do that, and they've actively embraced us into their lives to do that. So yeah, I think we really do. Again, we just really believe, be it in a store, be it on our, our Instagram, we really just believe in engaging with our customers.
I think as well, like, as you've said multiple times, the customer it's always been a community feel when you bought into Sweaty Betty, like whether that's the store experience or, through your Instagram page, and the fact that everyone's in the same boat and the fact that it's almost brought everybody together and have found some kind of, enjoyment and positivity through engaging with the brand.
And it's kind of because we're all home too, which is also a really nice aspect because we're all working from home. Yeah. A lot of those classes are attended by all of Sweaty Betty's staff and also the customer and our head office staff and our retail staff. And, that's kind of amazing. You think, there's never, when would you have time to go to the gym with your customer, Exactly. So suddenly you're on that HIIT class that's, on our Instagram, along with some of the customer care team, along with one of the staff and X, Y, and Z store, and some of our people from IT and from ecom, and That's kind of magic.
It must be gold as well in terms of like the insights that you can get from that. Like, how are they outfitting it? Like, what are they wearing? Like, what are they saying they love? Like, it's the best customer research I bet you could ever imagine having.
Totally. I mean, even commerce aside, even the benefits to your business, it's also just so impressive to see how incredibly active our customer is. It's like, holy shit. Again, we are for everyone, and you don't ever have to be this way. But I think what we've picked up on is, oh my God, some of our customers are like, they're beasts. Like, they are amazing. Like, they run marathons nonstop. They're doing triathlons. They play tennis, and then they're doing a HIIT class, and then they're Pilates, and then they do their meditation. Like, wow. And it's so inspirational.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, there was on the fitness app Strava, they announced that there was 108% rise in activity of women aged 18 to 29 in the UK in 2020. But where those major increases were coming from was running, cycling, and walking specifically. What do you feel are the untapped opportunities that activewear retailers, have and can be focusing on in the next year? Because it sounds like, as you said, it is endless.
It's funny, we called it quite early. Again, not genius. I think a lot of companies did that. If you're not going to be able to go to a gym, you're going to go out, right? Yeah. So we, started immediately protecting into that. So we made sure we had more waterproof jackets. We made sure we had waterproof pants. We made sure we had, water resistant bags. We started to really push into that because, not all the world, but a lot of the UK is rainy. So if they're going to be outdoors and they're going to be going walking, they're going to go running, they're going to go hiking, think about what do they need? What do they want? Okay, they want to be, again, thinking winter. They want to be warm. They want to be, dry. They want to have, comfort. So that's how we set to really build our assortment for a lot of that. So if you look on our site, you'll see more waterproof jackets. We have hiking trousers. We have base layers, a lot of thermals. And that really was around protecting that customer to enable them to go outdoors. And we launched our power in a full reflective print in November because we knew that she's going to run at night. It's going to be dark in the UK. How else can we help her? Oh, let's make it reflective. Again, going back to what is she doing and how do we help her? So I think they're not going to go away. I think they're going to actually grow those categories. And I think people who might have gone hiking as once a year, I think that's going to be a lot more the norm for a lot of people. And, cycling, I mean, if you look at the first few months, I can't remember the statistics, but there was literally not a bike to be had. No one could buy one.
No, it all sold out.
Which is just crazy. I know, it's crazy, isn't it? Like, to have no bikes left in the country. Like, it's insane. So I think we actually worked with, we had a Strava challenge. And what the Strava challenge was, basically, we asked our customer to move for 8 hours over 21 days. And then we gave them 20% off if they did. So we encouraged people to get out there and do it for 21 days. And it had an incredible reaction. I mean, the pickup was pretty remarkable.
What a wonderful initiative as well, that's kind of ultimately doing good, just encouraging everyone to get moving and exercise. And it's not an unmanageable challenge. You've given them 21 days to do that. And the fact that they're going to get something at the end of that, I can imagine.
But again, it goes back to the realism for our customers, right? So we said, do 8 hours over 21 days, between, it was December, I think it was the 1st to the 23rd. It was in around those days anyway. And, it's dark. People's mental health is really suffering. It's a really hard time. Yeah. So if we can encourage our customers to get out there, even go for a 10-minute walk, a 20-minute walk, or do the 8 hours in a day, like whatever works for you, and how do we reward them and bring them back to the brand again? So we encourage them to do it. And then, the pickup, as I said, we gave them 20% off, the assortment. And it was, incredible pickup. So I think we're going to continue to look at those initiatives to make sure our customers getting out there and, helping them to remain healthy and positive as much as we possibly can in the current situation. And I think, there's other sports that I think, going back to the pink it and shrink it thing, that, we haven't ever really tackled. I mean, I don't mean we, Sweaty Betty, I mean, as a female group. I mean, look at like MMA, or if you look at boxing, or all of those sports, there's nothing really for that customer. And also, to your point, you said very early on, golf.
Yeah.
There's nothing overly there. And so what does that look like for a female? And how do we make her feel that she can go to an MMA class or go to the golf range and feel herself and not be intimidated, and what that looks like? So all of us in the industry, we still have work to do, but it's definitely, the work is on the way, and it's a different world compared to the way it was even 5 years ago.
Totally. I mean, the options it's fantastic. And as you said, there's even more out there, and there's even more that we can be doing as an industry. But Jemma, just to finish off, and this is something we ask all of our guests, what is the one thing that you'd love our listeners to take away from this episode?
Anything is possible. If you really have a goal and you have a vision and you know what you want to do, you can get there. And reach out to the other people above you or that you see around you to help guide you if you need a mentor. And, I think I wish I could tell Jemma of age 23 that a lot of the time your personality is enough to get you there. If you work well with people, if you show that you want to be there, if you have common sense, which ain't that common, if you have those things, people will want to support you and they'll want you in the business. Make yourself indispensable to your boss or your colleagues, and the future is bright. So I think I always want people to take away that. I hate to say this for anyone who's listening now in the 7th year of college being like, what? But I would hire somebody with experience over a serious, long, expensive education all day, because it has shown me that you've got common sense in the real world and you know how hard it can be in the work environment. The reality. So I guess I always want people to take away that, a lot of this industry and a lot of fashion and retail industry is filled with people who, especially in the US, had the luxury of, having a, unpaid internship because their parents pay their rent and their parents pay their salaries every year. And that's, I think, that's an awful lot of what that industry looks like. And it doesn't have to, worm your way in and you'll find your way. I think that's what I always want people to take away if they hear my career path.
Those are very wise words, and I think will really be comforting for a lot of people to hear as well. Nothing that can replace hard work and building relationships that with people that you come across and that you meet. So
especially with this year, anyone who's joining whose college is postponed or they're worried that they're not going to be able to get through that and get a job, don't panic. No. There are options for you out there. Reach out. The future's bright for so many of us. Like, I mean, the business and athleisure wear, it will get better, and business will stabilize. There will be more jobs. There will be more college places. So I would encourage people to, pivot. Instead of maybe if you couldn't get to college this year, can you do an internship? Can you jump in and help somewhere for 6 weeks? What can you do to get you to your next goal? So yeah, I think that's probably what I want them to know.
Yeah, it's funny because I have a much younger brother who's at university at the moment, and bless him, obviously he's in his second year at university and it's being completely thrown on its head. And I think there's that worry, of like, what are the opportunities going to be for me as a graduate when I come out? And I'm like, literally just make contact with people, try and build relationships, do what you can, especially with the beauty of everyone working remotely. You don't have to have your parents fund you living in London or having to pay those kinds of rents. I'm sure there's opportunities out there, and you've just got to try.
It really is. And also, I think a lot of the time when you go through, I say this like I've gone through 10 pandemics, but a lot of the time when you go through hardship or, there's a real shift in, the paradigm in the world, there's opportunities will start to present itself. So, the likes of your brother, maybe their career path right now doesn't look so clear, but there's going to be so many innovations that's going to come out of this year that we probably don't even know what they are yet. We haven't even scratched the surface. Look at Netflix. Netflix used to be, you sign up and you have 5 DVDs and then you have to put them back in a box and send them back to them. Now look at Netflix.
Exactly. No, it's so true. Be creative and opportunities will be endless, I'm sure. Thank you so much for your time. I really, really, really appreciate it. And thank you for your candor and everything that you shared. It's really, really interesting.
Thank you so much. It was lovely chatting to you.
As a listener of ours, we are here to support you with the year ahead. If you're a customer of Edited, please contact your dedicated account manager and retail strategist, and they'll do everything they can to support you. For all of our listeners, please ensure that you're subscribed to our insider briefing and sign up at edited.com, where we'll be keeping you all up to date on the latest news and strategies. If you've enjoyed today's conversation with Jemma, please make sure you subscribe to keep in the loop with our future episodes. And we would love it if you could tell your family and friends about us. And if you have any further questions, don't hesitate to get in contact with us at unedited@edited.com or tweet us at edited_HQ. Bye.